The chair now recognizes the leader of the third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I'm delighted today to speak to Bill 9, the Local Election Statutes Amendment Act, and the reforms that it will be bringing to local elections to ensure that the elections are more transparent, more fair, and better serving of democracy. I want to start by really giving a shout out to Vancouver Green Councillor Pete Fry. He and the other Vancouver Greens have been pushing for reforms to local election financing for quite a while. In fact, passed a motion in February of 2020 that was unanimously supported at Vancouver City Council, calling for annual contribution limits, mandatory public disclosures, elimination of all corporate and special interest donations to municipal political parties. And Pete and the Vancouver Greens, and I think I would expect locally elected officials across the province are celebrating the introduction of this bill as a big step towards continuing to bring reforms to our elections and our democracy in BC. And I think, in the context of that, it is really important to recognize the reforms, that this is one of many pieces of legislation that have come in since 2017 as part of, in the last government, as part of the Confidence and Supply Agreement. Strengthening democracy was very much, it was the first part of the entire Confidence and Supply Agreement. And removing big money from politics was a significant and very important step that was taken. And it was something that the Greens actually did ahead of the 2017 election, banning corporate and union donations to our party in 2016, before the legislation was brought in to make that change apply to every political party in BC. Other initiatives that have been brought in, of course, the first changes to the Local Elections Act that we saw in 2017, which really demonstrated a shift was possible when you make structural change, because going to UBCM in 2017 and then back after the 2018 elections happened, it felt like a sea change in seeing the faces of who was elected locally. There were far more women, many more women mayors, for example, far more diversity. And it was a start. We have a long ways to go. And I think when we look at, for example, the resignation just recently from the Terrace Council of a councillor who cited bullying, that's Jessica McCallum Miller, an Indigenous councillor who resigned. We know that there is a lot of work to be done to continue to make elected spaces safe for women, for people of color, for Indigenous people, because we're not quite there yet. It's still, we're still facing these issues. And this is a very sad story of this councillor resigning, citing the systemic racism and bullying that she's facing. And so there's much work to be done. Another reform that was brought in because of the Confidence and Supply Agreement in 2017 was reforms to lobbying in BC. It is now possible to see who is lobbying whom in this province, and to get a really clear indication of how much time government spends with particular groups or industries or organizations that are lobbying. And that was another important part and something that was in our 2017 platform that was brought in as part of the Confidence and Supply Agreement in the previous government. I think that we can all agree that there's not ever going to be an end to the effort and attention and focus that we have to put on to ensuring that democracy remains strong, that it remains focused on serving the people that we represent as elected officials, we see the risk to democracy everywhere right now, and hyper-partisanship, an increasingly non-transparent approach to governance is something that we are seeing in jurisdictions across North America and around the world. And I think that it is incumbent on all of us to be incredibly vigilant in our roles as elected officials to put the protection and well-being and health of democracy at the center of our work, because we are the carriers of that in the roles that we play in this building that we're in. This act does make some good steps towards that. It establishes a pre-campaign period, increasing the length of time that election advertising is regulated from 29 days to 89 days. And so that kind of pre-election period when anything goes has been diminished, and we have the extension of a pre-campaign period of 60 days in which regulation will exist. And I think that is a really important step, because the amount of money that can go into election spending before the regulation period comes in can be significant and can have very significant impacts in terms of outcomes of an election. This bill limits sponsorship contributions to $1,200 to match the provincial campaign contributions set in 2017. Again, an important and necessary step to ensure that large amounts of money aren't having an oversized influence in outcomes of elections. It clarifies the types of activity that count as election advertising. So that includes paid campaigning, mailing election materials, and in a time as we are in, where information and false information, misinformation, disinformation have become so prevalent and so dominant, regulation around what is election advertising is really a crucial step to ensure that we are proactively addressing this issue. It requires electoral organizations to register with Elections BC, so that's transparency and accountability. And it provides Elections BC with new investigative tools to support investigations and additional penalties to fine people who do not comply. And we know that it's that combination of rules and enforcement tools that actually create behavioral changes. So I'm pleased that this bill has come forward. We will be supporting it. We will be very much engaged at committee stage to look more deeply into the specifics, but I think this is a very good step. And as I said, it's a continuation of work that has been done since 2017, important work. And I think that what we should all be striving for is that transparency, accountability, and in our roles, integrity, honesty, recognizing the work that has come before us, and really striving to continue to do the best work that we possibly can, particularly when it comes to democratic reform and elections. And so on that note, Honourable Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to speak to this bill, and I look forward to supporting it at the end of this debate.